Now, latest coming in from Washington, D.C., U.S. President Joe Biden has condemned Iran's quote-unquote brazen attack. The U.S. President issued a statement on Iran's attacks against Israel shortly after speaking on the phone with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, saying that he condemns the assault in the strongest possible terms. Biden said that U.S. forces deployed to the region helped Israel take down nearly all of the incoming drones and missiles and reaffirmed Washington's ironclad commitment to its allies' security. He added that while there were no attacks on U.S. forces or facilities on Saturday, the country will remain vigilant to all kinds of threats. Now, for more on this, our correspondent Susan Tehrani is joining us live from New York on the phone line. Susan, what is the latest you can tell us after this statement issued by Joe Biden?
Yes, as you mentioned, Joe Biden not only condemned this attack against Israel by Iran, but also said that he will convene his fellow G7 leaders to coordinate a united diplomatic response to Iran's brazen attack. The language here is important. He's talking about diplomacy once again, really signaling America's insistence that this situation really doesn't get out of hand for a wider regional war. We do know that there have been reports, notably from NBC, that President Biden expressed concern while talking to Benjamin Netanyahu tonight that Israel may act, quote, hastily and have a hastened response to Iran's attack, and that's something that the United States was concerned about. We also know that the United Nations Security Council is to convene for an emergency meeting tomorrow, Sunday afternoon, and we're expected to probably see a united stance from council members in condemning Iran. But whether or not that will have any pull in the greater atmosphere and situation that the Middle East is now in is yet to be seen, considering the fact that Israel made very clear that its red line was an attack from Iranian soil. And Iran decided to do that and not use its proxies for this attack.
Right. Susan, now, Joe Biden has, quote-unquote, said that Washington is extending its ironclad support to Israel. But all of this also comes with the backdrop of a lot of back and forth between Joe Biden and Benjamin Netanyahu over Gaza, which is at war for the last 6 months now. Specifically, if we could talk about Rafah, there has been disagreements over the operation in Rafah between Joe Biden and Benjamin Netanyahu. How do you think, and if you think at all, that could play any role or complicate the relationship between the two countries at this point?
Yeah, you know that saying that says, look at what I do and not what I say. Despite President Biden's rhetoric, and a lot of that is for domestic consumption because many of Arab Americans here in the United States have said that they won't vote for him again because of his policies with Israel. Despite all of the rhetoric and all of the leaks that we're seeing from the White House that President Biden is concerned, the administration has expressed concern and worry, America's support, notably when it comes to providing Israel with the right weapons, has not deterred. Israel continues to get America's support militarily, financially, and ultimately diplomatically as well. So President Biden's rhetoric may be just that. Ultimately, it's hard to imagine that the United States would stand back and, empty the back of Israel at this point.
All right, Susan, before I let you go, I also want to ask you, this is not an attack that came out of the blue. For about a week now, we have been hearing reports. We have been seeing Joe Biden chairing high-level meetings with his council, and at the same time, a lot of back and forth going on with U.S.'s allies in West Asia, specifically Israel. How much of U.S.'s support in terms of, I would say, militarily, do you think pre this attack was already there in West Asia? And what's the status right now?
Yeah, that's really interesting because some analysts believe that the fact that even Iran shared so much intelligence prior to this attack, and the United States and Israel were able to gather that intelligence down to when this attack would take place is because Iran was looking for an off-ramp to retaliate because it had to, because of domestic and international pressure, and also be careful that it doesn't cause too much damage for Israel to retaliate in a very significant way. That being said, we did see that the United States and its allies also shot down many drones coming from Iran. So the United States was involved in this conflict nonetheless. Again, it all depends right now how Israel will retaliate, but whether Iran thought that this would end with just it attacking Israel from its soil is yet to be seen, if it was a miscalculation or Iran is so emboldened in the region that it knew Israel will retaliate and was still willing to do this.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for getting us all those updates from New York, Susan. For all the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.